Chapter 2. The morning sun bathed the Olympic Village in a golden light as Léon headed to his first training session with his new teammates. His heart pounded, a mix of nervousness and excitement. He knew these sessions would be crucial for his integration into the team. The other players were already on the field, exchanging quick passes and bursting into laughter. As soon as he arrived, Léon felt a palpable tension. The looks were skeptical, critically assessing his potential. As the new cadet, he knew he had to prove himself, but the reception was colder than he had anticipated. The exercises began, and Léon tried to play collectively, aiming to facilitate his teammates' game. However, this honorable attitude was misinterpreted. Several times, when he chose to pass the ball instead of attempting an individual action, he felt the looks harden. "Renard, what's with the passing game? Are you sure you know how to play football?" a teammate snapped, exasperated. Léon tried to stay calm, but the biting remarks continued. With every mistake, every cautious decision, the whispers grew more acrid. The weight of expectations and doubts pressed heavier on his shoulders. After training, Léon felt exhausted, not physically, but mentally. His personal doubts were now amplified by the skepticism of his teammates. Depressed, he retreated to his room in the Olympic Village, seeking refuge away from critical eyes. The silence of the room was deafening, each corner seeming to echo his uncertainties. Desperate for comfort, he decided to reach out to the one person who could lift his spirits in such moments. Léon called Léa, hoping to find solace in her familiar voice. When her face appeared on the screen, he immediately noticed the stacks of books behind her and the slight stress marking her features. "Léa, how are you? How are the revisions going?" he asked, trying to inject some enthusiasm into his voice. Léa sighed and smiled slightly. "It's going well. It's intense, but I'm holding up. I'm spending a lot of time studying, but I feel like I'm making progress. And you, Léon? How are things in the Olympic Village?" Léon avoided her gaze, focusing on the corner of his room. "Oh, it's just the beginning. I mainly wanted to know how you were. And your team? Are the players doing well?" Léa frowned, sensing the hesitation in his voice. "Yes, they're doing well. We've had some good training sessions recently. But Léon, you seem worried. Don't you want to talk about yourself?" He shook his head, trying to steer the conversation away. "No, really, it's just the beginning. How do you feel about the upcoming exams? Are you handling the stress well?" Léa sighed, but a kind smile appeared on her lips. "Léon, it's sweet of you to worry about me, but I know you. What's wrong?" Léon remained silent for a moment, his eyes avoiding Léa's insistent gaze. Finally, he gave in, feeling the weight of his doubts. "The training is harder than I thought. My teammates, they doubt me. I try to play collectively, but they think I'm too passive." He managed a weak smile. "They probably think I'm not up to the mark." Léa listened attentively, her gaze filled with understanding. "I'm sure you're doing your best. You're always so humble and team-oriented, Léon. That's what makes you strong." Léon sighed, Léa's words touching a sensitive chord. They don't see it as a strength. To them, it's a weakness. Léa remained silent for a moment, then responded with her usual conviction. "Victories teach us less than trials. Don't give up, Léon. Every challenge you overcome makes you stronger. They will eventually see your worth, but you have to see it in yourself first." Léa's words resonated within him, dispelling some of his despair. He felt invigorated, grounded by his friend's wisdom. "Thank you, Léa. Your words give me the strength to keep going," he murmured, his voice filled with emotion. After hanging up, Léon felt strangely at peace. Léa's advice had rekindled a flickering flame within him. He realized that it wasn't just his game that was in question, but also his ability to believe in himself. The tension was palpable on the central court. Damien, dressed in his pristine white jersey, stood ready, his racket firmly gripped, his eyes fixed on the opponent in front of him. So far, he had breezed through the tournament with impressive ease, eliminating his competitors with a quiet confidence and undeniable talent. But today, in the final, he faced a challenge of a completely different nature. His opponent, Hans Müller, a Swiss champion known for his arrogance and provocations, stood on the other side of the net, a smug smile stretching across his lips. From the first exchanges, Hans displayed his technical skill, but also his penchant for body language that showed just how easy and effortless the match was for him. He taunted Damien with every point won, trying to unbalance him mentally as well as physically. The first 2 sets were a nightmare for Damien. Every shot from the Swiss seemed calculated to put him in difficulty, and every condescending gesture undermined his concentration. Trailing 2-0, he felt battered, his old demons resurfacing with every moment of frustration. The memories of his past arrogance, his impulsive behavior resurfaced, threatening to overwhelm him. Between sets, he returned to his bench, wiping the sweat from his forehead. Léon, Paul, and Elodie, sitting in the front row, encouraged him with comforting words. "Stay calm, Damien," murmured Léon, his gaze intense. "Don't let this guy take you back." "You're much better than that," added Elodie, her voice full of conviction. "Show him that you've become stronger, more serene." Paul, usually taciturn, offered a rare smile. "We believe in you, Damien. Stay true to yourself." Their words echoed in him, calming the storm that threatened to engulf him. Taking a deep breath, he regained his composure. The 3rd set began, and Damien, now impervious to his opponent's provocations, played with a renewed grace. His racket became an extension of himself, each shot executed with perfect mastery. He came back to win the next 2 sets, leveling the score amid the crowd's cheers. However, the 5th set proved to be a true test of endurance. Exhausted by the match's intensity, Damien fought with all his might, but each point won by Miller seemed to drain him further. Finally, despite his fierce resistance, the 5th set slipped away. Damien stood alone on the court, head bowed, heart heavy. The umpire had announced game, set, and match, and with it, his hopes of a gold medal had vanished. Hans Miller had won the victory, but not in the noble way he had hoped. Damien felt a bitter sting, a sense of injustice burning within him. He had given everything, clawing back 2 sets with fierce determination, only to collapse from fatigue in the 5th. He was devastated by the defeat, every muscle in his body protesting against the titanic effort he had made. His heroic efforts had not been enough, and he felt humiliated, his mind tormented by the thought that he had not been up to the task. As Hans Miller raised his fist, a triumphant smile on his face, Damien felt like an imposter, a failure. He returned to his bench, trying to hide his distress behind a cold facade. His friend's words still echoed in him, but they now seemed far away, drowned under the weight of his own disappointment. Then something unexpected happened. The applause began, first hesitant, then growing louder. Damien lifted his head, surprised. The crowd, moved by his courage and dignified attitude in the face of Miller's provocations, had decided to support him. The cheers rose to a crescendo, enveloping the stadium in positive energy that sharply contrasted with Miller's inglorious victory. Damien felt warmth spread through his heart, slowly dispelling the cold of defeat. He stood up, humbly acknowledging the crowd, each cheer reinforcing his resolve. In that moment, he realized that his true victory lay not in the gold medal, but in the respect and admiration he had earned through his conduct. During the medal ceremony, Damien stood before the podium, his gaze slowly brightening. When his name was called for the silver medal, he stepped forward. The cheers doubled, almost drowning out the surrounding noise. Hans Miller, despite his victory, was booed for his provocative behavior. Damien climbed onto the 2nd step of the podium, his heart pounding in time with the applause. When the silver medal was placed around his neck, he felt a mix of humility and pride. The crowd continued to cheer, recognizing in him a true champion, a model of perseverance and dignity. His friends, Léon, Elodie, and Paul, were among the first to cheer, their faces beaming with pride and unconditional support. Damien smiled humbly at them, his eyes shining with gratitude. Victory isn't always golden, he conceded as he joined his friends after the ceremony. But today I learned something far more valuable. Léon nodded, his eyes sparkling with pride. You showed everyone what it means to be a true athlete. In that moment, Damien felt truly victorious. He had faced not only a formidable opponent, but also his own demons.